Hello and welcome to Paint the Past. I'm your host, Amaris. Today, we're painting one of the most extraordinary creatures ever discovered. Not a dinosaur, not a trilobite, not even something that fits neatly into modern animal groups that we know today. This is a fossil of Anomalocaris canadensis. My reference photo is by Chris Woodrich via Wikimedia Commons, and the link is in the description below the video. For decades, Anomalocaris canadensis was mistaken for multiple different animals. It was reconstructed backwards. It was called a shrimp, and eventually it helped rewrite our understanding of early animal evolution. Today, we're going to step back more than 500 million years to the Cambrian period, long before the time of dinosaurs, and to one of the most important fossil sites in the world, the Burgess Shale. Around 508 million years ago, during the Cambrian period, life in the oceans was massively increasing in diversity. This event, often called the Cambrian explosion, marks the relatively rapid appearance of most major animal body plans. Creatures with hard shells, jointed limbs, compound eyes, and complex body structures suddenly appear in the fossil record. Before this, life was mostly soft-bodied and simple, mostly single-celled bacteria and some simple multicellular creatures like sponges and jellies. After this, however, ecosystems became more dynamic and the relationship of prey and predation emerged. And at the top of some of these early marine food webs was Anomalocaris canadensis. The name Anomalocaris means abnormal shrimp, and the canadensis part means from Canada. That name tells us something important. When scientists first found fossils of Anomalocaris canadensis, they had no idea what they were looking at. In 1909, on the land inhabited by the Shewepem and Tunaha nations, American paleontologist Charles Doolittle Walcott made a remarkable discovery high in the Canadian Rockies in an area now part of Yoho National Park. He uncovered what would become known as the Burgess Shale, a deposit of exceptionally preserved Cambrian fossils. Most fossil sites preserve hard parts like shells, bones, and exoskeletons. Soft tissues decay quickly, but the Burgess Shale is different. Here, soft-bodied organisms were buried rapidly by underwater mudslides. Fine-grained sediment sealed them away in low-oxygen conditions, preserving exquisite details, including muscles, guts, and even eyes. This site became one of the most important windows into early animal life ever discovered. And yet, even with these incredible fossils, scientists didn't immediately understand what they were looking at. Walcott first discovered curved, segmented appendages with spines along one edge. They looked to him like shrimp tails. He described them in 1912 as a new crustacean, Anomalocaris, the abnormal shrimp. That wasn't the whole story, though. Elsewhere in the Burgess Shale, paleontologists found circular fossils that looked kind of like sliced pineapple rings. These were classified as jellyfish and named Petoia. Then they found flat, segmented structures with lobes running down either side. Those ones were classified as a sponge and named Lagania. There were 3 animals with 3 names, 3 completely different interpretations, and every single one of them was wrong. It wasn't until the 1970s and early 1980s that all of these pieces came together. Paleontologist Harry B. Whittington and his students re-examined the Burgess Shale fossils with modern preparation techniques. One of those students, Simon Conway Morris, studied the strange spiky appendages. Another, Derek Briggs, analyzed the sponge fossils. Eventually, they realized something astonishing. The shrimp-like appendage wasn't a shrimp tail. It was a frontal grasping limb. The jellyfish wasn't a jellyfish. It was a circular mouth. And the sponge wasn't a sponge after all. It was the body. And all three belonged to a single large predator, Anomalocaris canadensis. What had been thought of as three unrelated animals was actually one of the most formidable creatures of its time. Now that we know how the parts fit together, what kind of animal was this? Anomalocaris canadensis could reach lengths of up to about 1 meter, which, after millennia of single-celled life, was comparatively enormous. It had 2 large segmented frontal appendages with spines for grasping prey, a circular mouth composed of overlapping plates on its underside, a series of lobes along each side of its segmented body, which likely undulated in waves to propel it through the water, and large compound eyes mounted on stalks, which were among the most advanced visual systems known from the Cambrian period. These eyes are particularly important. Some specimens show hundreds to thousands of compound lenses, suggesting acute vision, a crucial attribute for an active predator. For decades, Anomalocaris was thought to be the apex predator of the Burgess Shale ecosystem, preying on trilobites and other hard-shelled organisms. But that idea, too, has been refined. Early reconstructions imagined Anomalocaris crushing trilobite shells in its circular mouth. But later biomechanical analyses suggest that its mouth may not have been strong enough to crack hard mineralized exoskeletons. Instead, it may have targeted softer-bodied prey. Fossils of damaged trilobites were once attributed to Anomalocaris attacks, but alternative explanations now exist. Science evolves and interpretations change, and Anomalocaris continues to be studied as new fossils are discovered. For a long time, Anomalocaris was considered an evolutionary oddball, so strange that some researchers argued it belonged to an entirely extinct branch on the tree of life. But further discoveries in China and Australia revealed related species. These animals are now grouped as radiodonts, a name referring to the circular mouthparts. And rather than being evolutionary experiments that failed, radiodonts are now understood to be an extinct stem group related to modern arthropods, which are essentially creatures with exoskeletons, and is the largest group of modern animals. The arthropod group includes creatures as diverse as horseshoe crabs, centipedes, spiders, crustaceans, and insects. The Anomalocaris just represents one of nature's early experiments in arthropod evolution. In 1989, paleontologist Stephen Jay Gould published Wonderful Life, a book that brought the Burgess Shale to a wider audience. Gould argued that many Cambrian animals represented radically different body plans, evolutionary experiments wiped out by chance events. If we could rewind the tape of life, Gould suggested, evolution might produce completely different outcomes. Anomalocaris became a symbol of this idea as an alien-looking ruler of a lost world. However, later research has challenged some of Gould's ideas. Many supposedly unique body plans have since been reclassified within broader evolutionary groups. So rather than a chaotic burst of wild variability of body forms, the Cambrian explosion may represent the early branching of lineages, many of which still exist today. The debate is ongoing, and that's part of what makes this fossil so interesting. As I finish up this painting, what we're really looking at isn't just a fossil. We're looking at a case study in scientific misinterpretation, a triumph of double-checking old data and working collaboratively rather than in competition. It's a key player in understanding early animal evolution, and it's a symbol in modern debates about what is and isn't inevitable in evolution. And finally, it's a reminder that even iconic fossils can be misunderstood for decades. Hopefully, Anomalocaris canadensis reminds us to have a bit of scientific humility. The fossil record doesn't come labeled, it comes fragmented, compressed, and distorted by time. It's our job to piece it together, sometimes literally. More than 500 million years ago, this creature swam through Cambrian seas that covered what is now Canada. Today, it lives on in slabs of shale, museum drawers, scientific debates, and paintings like this one. It's no longer an abnormal shrimp. Rather, it's one of the most important fossils ever discovered, and it reminds us that the history of life is stranger and more interconnected than we ever imagined. Thank you for joining me for this swim in the watercolor seas of the Cambrian period. If you enjoyed this video, I'd be thrilled if you'd join me for future episodes. See you next time!